Welcome to the AI for You Cafe for live presentations around AI. And as speaker today, I welcome Yannis Kompetsaris. Hello. And he's the research director at CERT ITI Greece and our coordinator of AI for Media project. And he will present his talk, which is called A European Excellence Center for Media, Society and Democracy. As always, we're waiting a little bit until everybody enters the cafe. Welcome to everybody who's already here. My name is Carmen McWilliams, and I'm the moderator and organizer of this cafe. I'm the director of the company Grassroots Arts in Germany and partner in the European AI for You project, as well as in the AI for Media project. So please take notice that this session will be recorded. No confidential information shall be shared in this cafe session. In this cafe, the speakers express their personal view and opinions. This is not necessarily the official project opinion. So what is the AI for You web cafe about? The cafe is an online forum to gain insights into the European AI scenes. You have the chance to share knowledge and experiences and meet stakeholders from various areas of AI research and applications. So again, this is an interactive session. Great you're here. If you have questions to Yannis, to the speaker, to even me, please type them in. There is in your control panel, there's an area, the chat, and questions, you can type it, and after the presentation, I will read it to the speaker. So great you're here, and I shortly introduce Yannis. Dr. Yannis Kompetsaris is Research Director at CERT ITI, the head of Multimedia Knowledge and Social Media Analytics Laboratory and Deputy Director of the Institute. His research interests include machine learning and AI, multimedia, big data, and social media analytics, semantics, human-computer interfaces, e-health, security, and cultural application. He is the co-author of 171 papers in referred journals, 63 book chapters, and 8 patents, and more than 500 papers in international conferences since 2001. Dr. Kompetsaris has participated in 89 national and European research programs, in 18 of which he has been a project coordinator. He's a member of the Scientific Advisory Board of the CHIST ERA funding program, an elected member of the IEEE Image, Video, and Multidimensional Signal Processing Technical Committee, a senior member of IEEE and member of ACM. Since January 2014, he is a co-founder of the Infalia private company, a high-tech SME focusing on data-intensive web services and applications. So very impressive, and don't forget, he is the coordinator of AI for Media. So now it's to you. Yeah. Great you're here, so welcome.
Thank you, Carmen, very much for the invitation to this very interesting and very useful, I have to say, series of events. Thank you for the detailed introduction. I'm sorry for the so many acronyms and such technical language. Okay, I will now share my screen.
Great, I see it.
I hope you can see it. Is it okay?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, and today I will present our relatively new project, which is called AI for Media, artificial intelligence for the society and the media industry. The project started in the beginning of September. It is a 4-year project, so we consider to be still in the beginning. And you can see here the overall AI for media vision. Its main objective is to become a center of excellence in developing and applying AI technologies in the key sector of media. Making sure that European values as ethical and trustworthy AI are taken into account. And apart from applying these technologies, let's say, to the economic sector of media, we will take care to also consider related societal challenges. So we are a project of 30, we are a project of 30 partners. You can see here a photo from the kickoff meeting, which took place at the end of September, with 80 participants around in total. And before going on, what we consider media in our projects, and of course, what is media in general. So information and communication production and delivery, with application areas in news and journalism, in social media, entertainment, and arts and creativity. And as I mentioned before, it is not only the economic, let's say, industrial and technology aspects of this sector, but also how these technologies affect humans and societies. And at the end, because many of these technologies are applied in news journalism, as I mentioned, the social media, who currently affect a lot the public opinion. This has important consequences to political debates and overall to our democratic society. To become more specific, we are dealing with challenges like disinformation and polarization, which, as you can imagine, play a significant role in these aspects. I would say at this stage, this is maybe the most important and useful representation of what AI for media is. There are several strategic objectives. You can see in the center, we have the research activities, the strategic objective 2, which are research activities related to AI and media, of course, like new learning paradigms with an emphasis on distributed AI, explainability, robustness, and privacy aspects of AI, more focused content center and related techniques like understanding and so on. And this human and society-centered AI dimension that I have discussed, and maybe provide an example. So the research activities directions are in the center of the project. And as you can see, they interact at the bottom with the use cases. So a combination of several components or technologies will be used in order to implement the use cases which are driven by industrial partners. And as you can see, and we can also see later in more detail, they are in related areas, of course, like AI for social media and disinformation. So having the research activities and the use cases at the center of the project, let's say the center of research and development, there are several supporting and horizontal activities around. So we have the European Media, what we call it, the European Media Observatory, which will study current status and directions, the state of the art. Will create roadmaps and white papers, and will also consider open issues, challenges, future directions, and so on. So, of course, as you can see, it is something that will interact with our research activities and will provide input to these activities. There is a strong educational component. This AI Doctoral Academy I will present later in a bit more detail. There is a funding scheme for external parties, for institutions, maybe mainly targeting SMEs, but also research institutions, not being partners of the project. So I will present later. There will be open calls, and we also have. We are here in an event organized by AI4U. We have AI4 EU, which is currently developing a common architecture to an extent, and specifications which can be used by other projects. We are starting becoming part of this process, and our collaboration with AI4 EU, through this collaboration, we will try to reuse these specifications in order to make components compatible with this specification, and hopefully also build use cases which are compliant to this architecture, so they are also reusable, and if possible and needed, to be able to integrate components that are not created within AI4Media, but maybe they are developed within AI4U or even to other projects. And as you can see on the right, all these developments lead to a virtual center of excellence, which there will be a platform collecting and presenting and maintaining all these research, educational and other type of resources in a sustainable way in the long term. As I mentioned, yes, and also from the time spent in this slide, this is a very important one at this stage. Yes, I also had this animation, but okay. Here you can see what I presented in a different format. I don't think something important from what I presented, something additional important is included here. And similar for the outcomes, there is a series of outcomes which correspond to the components that I presented before. You can see here in a little bit more detail some of the research directions, research pillars that we will work on in AI4Media. As I told you, one main direction is to work, improve learning techniques, apply them to media with a focus on decentralized learning and AI on the edge as a direction. I will show a more specific example later. Robustness and the privacy in AI is another main direction. So, for example, bias detection and mitigation is one more specific research area, together with explainable AI. And then this can be considered also techniques and directions which can be applied in other areas and domains as well, not just media. We have, of course, a more specific direction for in AI for multimedia content analysis and creation, including known tasks and challenges in media and multimedia, like media analysis and summarization, production, language analysis in media, multimodal techniques, music annotation, and so on. And finally, this more human and society-centered AI direction around synthetic content detection. I will show an example which can be used, not can be used, is already used in fake news and deep fakes, AI for healthy political debates and so on. And more specifically regarding trustworthy AI, as I mentioned, for example, elimination of biases, robustness of AI and learning techniques, predictability, and so on. A couple of more focused examples. You can see in this slide some examples of synthetic content detection in multimedia. How faces, synthetic faces can be generated, different types of it, either completely new face synthesis, so generation of faces that do not belong to any known person, some attributes manipulation based on existing faces, identity swap, so making one person to look like another, or just expression changes. And of course, all these are used in fake news, and one of the which, as I mentioned, have important consequences to how we consume news. And one direction is to be able to identify this manipulated content without relevant expertise. So many experts some experts who are working on media or experienced journalists can understand either from the content, either from the some contextual information that indeed these are not real faces. We want to develop automatic techniques to detect this without someone having to be an expert. And of course, the objective is to through this to stop, control the spread of disinformation and fake news, and prevent frauds, and not just frauds, targeted and online manipulation. Another direction is when we are dealing with deep learning techniques. One important requirement is to have a large set of annotated data. When dealing with images and videos, this is time consuming and not possible in many cases, especially where we are dealing with underrepresented domains and classes, or with very detailed objects and actions where annotation becomes even more challenging. So there are two directions, either being able to learn through limited amounts of data, limited amount of annotated data, or combine this with learning with data which are not annotated, unlabeled data. So here you see a couple of directions where self-supervised or unsupervised learning and clustering can be used towards the directions I mentioned. A little bit, some more details on these supporting actions that I mentioned. Here you see again in more detail the use cases. So you see there are around journalism and news, around entertainment and creativity, and social sciences and humanities. And as I mentioned, in most of the cases, an industrial partner or a content, an organization which is expert in content management is managing these use cases. Now, regarding this international AI doctoral academy, the objective here is to have something like an umbrella organization or platform where courses and yes, mainly courses and even programs from different universities and even other type of organizations are presented, and students can select these courses and follow courses from different universities. And our university partners are working on, let's say, the terms and the rules for sending and receiving, at this stage virtually, of course, students, and how these courses can be offered. And at the end, for example, these courses taken by other universities can count towards a degree in another university, or if someone finishes a number of courses, can get certification of following this AI doctoral academy, of course not being a PhD degree, but let's say an additional certification which can be used during the PhD or afterwards. We are trying to do this we are trying to do this within the AI for media, but also with other collaborating projects. I can say at this stage that AI for media is one out of 4 projects, usually called as known as ICT48 project. This was the call, and they are, let's say, similar in overall, not structure, in overall objectives and formulation. And currently, we are trying to also involve all these other projects in this doctoral academy. And there has been progress so far in this area. An MOU, a memorandum of understanding, has been compiled and sent to collaborating universities, and is being currently discussed, and the comments are received, and it can be the first step of having some more concrete organization in this common structure that I described. Apart from this, I would say, very interesting and ambitious objective of the doctoral academy, there are also other related activities involved, like exchanges between partners and so on. And another activity that I mentioned in the beginning is this Cascade funding program, which I mentioned here. The focus is on SMEs. I think also research organizations will be included from related technologies and sectors. And the idea is either to reuse technologies developed through AI for media in new use cases. Of course, these technologies can be adapted and improved, or suggest new components. So it is a funded tool for interaction with partners outside the consortium, which will become available, which will be announced after the first year of the project. And at this time, at this slide, I would like to tell you that we in AI for media, we also have, let's say, the role of the associated partner, where soon there will be available in the website an area, a button for applying for to become an associate member, which is not funded, but associate members will, let's say, receive direct communication about both these activities, and depending on some requirements, they could be part of the doctoral academy. So, for example, if they offer courses, then their students will be able to also receive courses through the doctoral academy. So there is I would say, more formal way of participating in doctoral academy. And as I mentioned, they will receive direct communication about the open calls, and then, of course, this will be competitive calls open to anyone, but it will be a means to receive some funding, and not only the funding, of course, but be able to interact with the developed components and use cases and technologies and so on. So keep in mind about this possibility of becoming an associate member, and that soon this will be available in our website. So finally, maybe our more concrete and better defined objective as we are starting the project is to mobilize and attract a large community around the project and develop the state-of-the-art technologies in order to become the reference point for AI in multimedia, the media sector, and beyond. So thank you very much. And this is also the website of the project. If you want more information, currently it's not the complete version there, but soon, within December, it will be there also with the information about becoming an associate member. And you can also see the logos of the long list of 30 partners participating in the project. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Very great insight. And as I'm a partner, I have maybe less questions than today the participants in the cafe, but I'm the first, as I invited you. So my question is, number one, how can one participate as a PhD student in this PhD academy? And second, what is if you're not even a PhD student, you are just a normal citizen? Is there a way to participate in the lessons?
Yes, currently I stopped sharing my screen. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so currently all this organization and effort that I presented is targeting PhD students. They are technical courses requiring some kind of technical knowledge and requirement. So I guess maybe some of them, but I guess the majority of them will not be for the general public. As I mentioned, in this memorandum of understanding and currently with collaborating universities, we are discussing the terms and I will say also the rules for PhD students to take part in this program. I have to say that, of course, PhD students will be registered in a university as usual. This university will will award the PhD like it's happening. But participating, the students of participating universities will have a more organized way of sharing courses and recognizing the participation in these courses between different universities, and also receiving some kind of, apart from the participation, receiving maybe some kind of recognition or extra benefit for completing a number of such shared courses. It is not, I have to tell that I'm not personally involved because I also come from a research institute. I'm not fully aware of the PhD rules, dynamics, environment, let's say, and so on. I know that it is very challenging and it is very different all over Europe. But a very serious effort has started. I hope we will see some results soon. And then the activities, related activities will be communicated. And as I mentioned, through our website or by someone becoming an associate member, will receive direct information once we have something concrete.
Yes, thank you. And now I'm going forward with the with our audience and co-participants in this cafe. And here we start with Peter van der Linden. Hello, Yannis. Thank you for the interesting presentation. Your IAID Doctoral Academy sounds great. That's a great idea. Beyond the promise of universities to collaborate and exchange, are you planning to establish learning curriculums and certifications?
Yes. The first step is to of course, how to say, it is a very complicated and detailed matter. Maybe an AI cafe can be exactly on this, but I will gather my insight on this so far. So the idea is not, maybe a second step, it's not just to offer a list, an unorganized, unstructured list of courses, but have this list of courses organized in a curriculum where it makes sense for someone to complete a group of courses or to complete some courses in a specific order, or categorize some courses under specific subtopics. So, for example, AI and computer vision. So, computer vision aspects of AI. So indeed, there is the objective to have this more organized. And regarding certification, as I mentioned, it is, as I understand it, also from the situation currently in Europe, it is very ambitious to establish an organization which can award the PhDs. But towards certification, there are two directions. One, of course, to agree on recognition of following these courses, which can be based on the existing European system. But as I mentioned earlier, if someone completes a series of courses or a specific group of courses, can receive a certification and recognition that has completed this group of courses in AIDA, as you saw the acronym, and then maybe depends on its university, even on its supervisor, or on even on the PhD student, how useful and how recognizable this will be. If this is so successful, maybe in the future such certification can be valuable based on the success of this effort. So these are the directions so far. And again, if a university, an academic in a relevant field is willing not only to participate but also contribute to the formulation of such a program, you are willing, you are welcome to contact us and be part of the effort. It's a very inclusive effort to gather as much participation and contributions as possible.
Yes, thank you. I think this also answers the next question from Eugenio Clavio. He said, how could my university participate? I think the answer was in your answer.
Yes. At the moment, Yes, at the moment, please just send an email to me. I will forward you to the right people working on this in the project. We are collaborating with other people in relevant projects, and yes, we can start a procedure for including also external partners and universities. Maybe in the future can become more have a more formal way for this. This is also other discussion, but at this, let's say, first bottom up, completely bottom up stages. If there is interest, please contact me so you can be part of it.
Yes, and I can just say that there is another cafe when you Google on YouTube AI for You Cafe. Professor Peters, he's the second person besides here Yannis. He's the person you can contact. Also Professor Peters, who gave already in October a cafe session. So just if you feel like, just look also for Professor Peters. But
yes. Yes, Professor Peters is the leading person from our project in this effort from Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Of course, you can also contact him directly. And as I mentioned, Carmen, after some time, maybe it is a nice idea to have a specific presentation on this, most probably by Professor Peters this time. So interested universities and students can be aware about this progress in more detail, and also see how interested organizations and persons can participate and so on.
Yes. Okay, great. And if you have somehow problems to find all the emails, you can also write me. I will forward you. So you always have my email in the invitation. So there, if you have no other. So anyway, now next question. Here comes Nathalie Saint-Pierre. Great project. What is the plan to include the finance sector in this academy?
The
finance, like what is there also an idea for finance?
Finance sector. Yes, of course, a very interesting sector, and indeed many AI technologies can be used and be useful in this sector. Currently, as you have seen, the project is around media, AI and media. Of course, this academy, doctoral academy, will not be restricted only to media-related technologies, especially if other projects participate as well, and universities outside AI for media. It will be much more open. But it is not, I have to say, it is not part of our focus now. The team in AI for media, I don't think someone has, how to say, specific skills and expertise in the finance sector. Again, if there is an interested partner, university, and so on, might be part of this overall effort. But I have to say it's not part of our focus at this moment.
Yes, I think it's important here to understand, I think also to Nathalie and everybody, this is an effort for all AI, network of excellence. We're having different projects besides AI for media. There are other sectors already, but it is basically the idea on the long term to get more different sectors into this AI academy, how I understand, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, and Peter here, he responds to your answer that I think a cafe on the topic of AI academy is a great idea. I believe very strongly in the future of the learning organizations. So, and here I, as Carmen, as the organizer of the AI for You Cafe, I must say, yes, let's do this. And 2021, when we are a few steps further, no? We do that, right?
Yes, I'm, as you can mention, Professor Peters and other people working on it are very enthusiastic on these ideas. I'm pretty sure they will be happy to present it and discuss. And I'm happy also to see such interest on this topic and to consider in more detail inclusion of additional organizations.
Yes. And also here, Pablo Alvarez. Thank you, great session. This is not a question, just a compliment. And yes, the point is that we're going to go deeper in this. We're going to organize it for 2021. I have another question for you, because you said, okay, this is all about media. Do you know, this is my typical cafe question, and we are slowly coming also to an end. Do you know of any example or use case or project on trustworthy AI in media?
Yes, I will say a good example of techniques which are trying to increase our trust in the content, I will say, not our trust in the techniques, but trust in the media themselves. This will be part, and is already a very active area of techniques which are working on this topic that I mentioned, this misinformation detection, where the objective is exactly this: to develop techniques which, to an extent, we can consider them as assigning a trust score to the content. So, depending on various parameters, how trustful this source, content, media, user, and so on is. And on this, there have been some platforms and, of course, several algorithms and implementations, which in news consumption and journalism provide such, as I mentioned, trust scores. So I would say this is, at least to me, a clear example where AI can increase this trust, or maybe at the end decrease, even better, our trust in the media we consume.
Yes, okay, thank you. And I would say this is for today it. The questions are basically now answered. And thank you very much. And as we said, you can contact, of course, our speaker, Yannis, directly. And also you can always come back to me if you somehow missed any kind of email or you want to have some other information. And as always, at the end, I thank you, Yannis. And I invite you, of course, for tomorrow. Tomorrow is our next cafe. And the next cafe will be Ursula Sobek from Funding Box and Jordi Iparagua, not easy, from Eurit, with a talk on discover how to get up to 10,000 in the AI for You call for challenge and how Eurit uses AI. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the same time. So basically the open calls will be explained tomorrow for anybody who's interested, and that's especially also for students, I think PhD students, because 10,000 is not so much, but there are going to be a lot of 140 at least get this kind of support to maybe work on their special AI studies. So whoever's interested, please come back tomorrow, and thank you again. And
thank you very much, Carmen, for this excellent organization, very interesting invitation, and to all the participants, and for the interest and the questions. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye. No? Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Stay
Bye-bye.
safe.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.